Enter Jack Montgomery, a charismatic tech entrepreneur whose outward success masks a deeper restlessness as he navigates the growing disconnect between his public persona and private self. Get ready to swipe right on this silicon stallion, ladies and gents. Chapter 2. The Restless Entrepreneur. The incessant buzz of a smartphone cut through the pre-dawn silence of the sleek Seattle penthouse. Jackson Montgomery's hand shot out from under the covers, fumbling for the device on his nightstand. He squinted at the screen. 4:30 a.m.
Damn it, Zane.
He muttered, swiping to answer the video call.
You do realize there are other time zones, right?
The face of his business partner filled the screen, grinning unapologetically.
Rise and shine, Sleeping Beauty. Our Singapore investors are chomping at the bit. They're offering another 10 mil if we launch in Asia by Q2.
Jack sat up, running a hand through his disheveled hair. The Seattle skyline glittered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city still shrouded in night.
We're not ready for Asia. The algorithm needs
More time, I know.
Zane finished.
But Jack, this could be huge. Think about it. I'll send over the projections.
The call ended, leaving Jack staring at his reflection in the dark screen. He tossed the phone aside and swung his legs out of bed, his bare feet sinking into the plush carpet. As he stood, motion sensors activated, slowly illuminating the vast bedroom. Jack's gaze swept across the space, taking in the trappings of his success as if seeing them for the first time. The king-size bed with its Egyptian cotton sheets, the custom-made furniture of polished teak, the floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of Seattle's skyline, still glittering in the pre-dawn light. He padded across the room, pausing before a wall he jokingly called his ego boost. Here, bathed in soft lighting, hung the physical manifestations of his achievements. A framed cover of Forbes, his own face staring back at him under the headline, Tech's Wunderkind. The crystal trophy from his Innovator of the Year award. A shadow box displaying the platinum card he'd received for flying 1,000,000 miles. His fingers traced the edge of his MIT diploma, then drifted to a more recent edition. A thank you letter from a children's hospital, grateful for the donation of tablets running Technova's educational software. That one, at least, still sparked a warmth in his chest. Turning away, Jack moved through his home, each room a testament to his meteoric rise. The state-of-the-art kitchen with its smart appliances, untouched save for the coffee maker. The home office with 3 monitors and a VR setup for global conferences. The entertainment room with its massive screen and gaming consoles still in their packaging. Aspirational purchases for free time he never seemed to have. He paused in front of a glass display case housing his most prized possession, the first server he'd built, its casing signed by tech luminaries he'd once idolized. Now, many of them were peers, competitors, or investors. The server was a relic of simpler times, when coding into the night had been fueled by passion rather than obligation. At 33, Jack was at the top of his game. CEO of a thriving tech startup, invited to speak at prestigious conferences, featured in 30 under 35 lists. His home was a showcase of success, a lavish reward for years of relentless work. So why did it all feel so hollow? Jack's reflection caught his eye in a decorative mirror. Designer stubble, perfectly tousled hair, even just out of bed. The kind of effortless good looks that had graced more than one magazine cover. The face of success stared back at him, but the eyes held a question he couldn't quite answer. With a sigh, he headed for the kitchen. The smart home system sensed his approach, automatically raising the blinds to reveal the awakening city below. Seattle spread out before him, a playground he'd conquered. As the coffee maker whirred to life, Jack leaned against the cool marble countertop, surrounded by the spoils of his victory. So why did success taste so bland? As the rich aroma of coffee filled the air, Jack's tablet pinged with Zane's email. He swiped through the projections, the numbers blurring together. Each chart screamed opportunity, but Jack felt a familiar heaviness settling in his chest. The balcony door slid open with a soft hiss. Jack stepped out, the chilly November air biting at his skin. Below, early commuters began to fill the streets, their headlights cutting through the lingering darkness. He remembered when he used to be one of them, bright-eyed and eager, rushing to change the world one line of code at a time. Now, the world moved at the speed of his algorithms, and Jack felt like he was struggling to keep up. His phone buzzed again. A message from his sister.
Don't forget Mom's birthday dinner tonight, 7 p.m. No excuses this time.
Jack grimaced. He'd missed the last 2 family gatherings, too caught up in investor meetings and product launches. He typed a quick,
I'll be there.
hoping he could keep his word this time. Back inside, he moved to his home gym, determined to burn off the restless energy coursing through him. As he ran on the treadmill, his mind raced faster than his feet. Launch in Asia, expand the team, court more investors, optimize the algorithm. The hamster wheel of success kept spinning. But to what end? An hour later, showered and dressed in a crisp suit, Jack stood in his private elevator, descending to the garage. His reflection stared back at him from the polished doors. Every hair in place, tie perfectly knotted. The picture of success. He adjusted his cufflinks, a gift from his first major investor, and tried to summon the enthusiasm he used to feel at the start of each day. The elevator dinged, doors sliding open to reveal his gleaming Tesla. Another day, another race to the top. But as Jack slid into the driver's seat, his hand hesitated over the ignition. For a moment, he imagined driving past his office, past the city limits, into the mountains he could see on the horizon. What would it be like to just breathe? The moment passed. Jack shook his head, started the car, and pulled out into the morning traffic. He had an empire to run after all. Even if, lately, it felt more like the empire was running him. As he navigated through the busy streets, his eyes caught a billboard advertising a mountain getaway. Escape the rat race, it proclaimed in bold letters. Jack snorted, as if it were that simple. His phone buzzed again. Probably Zane with more updates. Jack ignored it, focusing on the road ahead. But as he pulled into his reserved parking spot at Technova's headquarters, he couldn't shake the feeling that something had to give. The glass doors of the building slid open, welcoming him into the familiar chaos of his creation. Jack plastered on his game face, nodding at the security guard. Time to change the world. Again. If only he could remember why it mattered so much in the first place. As the day wore on, the weight of expectations pressed heavier on Jack's shoulders. Meeting after meeting blurred together, each one a variation on the same theme. Expansion, optimization, monetization. The words that used to excite him now left a bitter taste in his mouth. By late afternoon, Jack found himself staring out the window of his corner office, the Seattle skyline bathed in the warm glow of the setting sun. His reflection looked back at him, tie loosened, hair slightly disheveled. A far cry from the polished CEO who had strode in that morning. A knock at the door jolted him from his reverie.
Come in.
He called, not turning from the window.
Hey, boss.
Zane's voice carried its usual enthusiasm.
Great news. The board loved our Asia expansion plan. They want to fast-track it. We're looking at a launch in 3 months if we push hard.
Jack's stomach clenched.
3 months? That's impossible. The team's already stretched thin and the holidays are coming up.
Zane waved off his concerns.
Nothing's impossible for Technova, right? That's our motto. Besides, think of the Q4 numbers. We'll be the darlings of Silicon Valley all over again.
As Zane rattled off projected figures and potential partnerships, Jack's eyes drifted to a small notification blinking on his computer screen. An email from an old college friend. Hey Jack, Remember when we used to talk about changing the world? Not sure if you're still into that, or if you're too busy being a tech mogul now. But if you're up for it, I'm organising this Friendsgiving thing at a mountain lodge. No shop talk, no networking, just real connections. Might be good for the soul, you know? Let me know if you can tear yourself away from the rat race for a few days. Alex. Jack's finger hovered over the delete key, his usual response to such invitations. But something made him pause. The idea of snow-capped mountains, of conversations that didn't revolve around profit margins and market share, tugged at something long buried.
Jack, you with me?
Zane's voice cut through his thoughts. Jack turned, meeting his partner's expectant gaze. For a moment, he saw himself reflected in Zane's eager eyes. The driven, ambitious entrepreneur he'd been just a few years ago. When had that fire been replaced by this smouldering discontent?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Jack replied, the words feeling hollow.
Send me the details. I'll review them tonight.
As Zane left, practically bouncing with excitement, Jack sank into his ergonomic chair. His eyes flicked between the email from Alex and the mountain of work awaiting his attention. The familiar knot of anxiety tightened in his chest at the thought of the coming months. The endless meetings, the sleepless nights, the missed family dinners. With a sudden decisive movement, Jack reached for his phone. His thumb hovered over his mother's contact, the guilt of his impending cancellation already settling in. But as he glanced once more at Alex's email, a different kind of restlessness stirred within him. What if, just this once, he chose differently? Jack set the phone down, leaving the call unmade. He turned back to the Seattle skyline, the city lights now twinkling in the darkness. Somewhere beyond those lights lay mountains, and maybe, just maybe, the answer to the question he'd been afraid to ask. With a deep breath, he opened Alex's email and began to type a reply.